Oh, and Hello duelists, Russ Merrill here, and today we're going to be opening a box of deck build pack Tactical Masters. Okay, this is our first deck build pack of the year featuring three very interesting new archetypes. The Valiants, the Labyrinth, and Mysterune. Or at least I think that's going to be the English localization of it. In Japanese, it is just called the Rune archetype. I'll talk about them a bit later as we see these cards. Okay, this is one of the Rune quick play spells. So what is really interesting about this archetype is that its main deck consists of almost only quick play spells like this, and their art style is always the same. It's from this first person view, as if you the player are like controlling a game character and like playing an action adventure RPG or something like that. And in general, I think all three archetypes in this pack are very game inspired. Now what do these Rune quick play spells do? In exchange for skipping your next battle phase, you get to choose between two kinds of effects. The first disrupts your opponent while banishing a certain number of cards from the top of your deck, and the second effect, which is the same for all Rune quick play spells, is to special summon a Rune monster from your extra deck. So as you guys might be able to guess, this is an archetype designed for deck destruction. You don't even get to battle phase, you don't have any monsters of this archetype within your main deck. Your goal is to get rid of all the cards in your opponent's deck by banishing them and while surviving all the way. And while this kind of deck exists in many other card games out there, for example, Battle Spirits is very famous for having blue deck destruction and Duel Masters has it as well. I think this is the first time we are seeing an archetype that is so dedicated to such a mechanic within Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's just really cool, and I'm quite hyped about being able to test it out. Okay, and next here we have a member of the Labyrinth archetype. So this one again seems to be based around dungeon crawling games, but from the perspective where you are the boss monster at the end of the dungeon, and this guy over here will be one of your minions. You have access to a lot of traps and you try to combine their effects in order to stop the adventurers from clearing your dungeon. So again, very cool stuff. This is another Rune quick play spell. This one is of the Raging Storm. So you see that whoever the main character is in this Rune RPG probably has access to a variety of different skills. And hey, scapegoats. I believe this would probably be good for Rune because it is a quick play spell and can put 4 like defensive cards on your field. So we will put this on the side since it is a generic card. And here we have our first Valiance card, Valiance Buster Baron. So this is a Pendulum Fusion archetype which can actually be divided into two categories, and I will talk about this later on once we get our first card for the second category. But just to give a bit of a teaser, do you guys play Fire Emblem? Fire Emblem is one of my favorite games, and I think this new Valiance archetype is based on that as well. Now we have another really cool looking Mecha Valiance member, Valiance Mad Marquis, or Marcus. And next we have another Labyrinth, this time I think a Haunted Grandfather Clock. Here we have one of the Labyrinth traps. This is Fair Welcome Labyrinth, okay? Followed by one of the extra deck Rune monsters, Moonin. So there are a few low-level fusion monsters for the Rune archetype that you can bring out with any one of the quick play spells, and although you can see their attack is 0, so they will not help you destroy the opponent, they can of course serve as walls on the battlefield, while also having some effects that help to disrupt the opponent furthermore, while, you know, gaining some advantage for you guys for like searching for more quick play spells and stuff like that. And our first super rare is going to be a Rune Spell. So in exchange for skipping your next battle phase, this card lets you search your deck for another Rune Spell, so basically the engine of the deck, and then banish the top card of your opponent's deck, so just one card gone, or of course special summon a Rune monster from your extra deck. Okay, finally we have the other side of the Valiance archetype, the Valiance Archer. His name is Scion. Okay, so if you have played Fire Emblem before and you've played that 3DS game Fire Emblem Fates where you are kind of like torn between two nations, then there are two countries, right? And I believe the White Nation was very like a Japanese traditional Oriental armor style, whereas the Black Nation was like more Western inspired, although in this case it's a bit more futuristic in that sense. Yeah, so I think the Valiance archetype is essentially supposed to They kind of have a mechanic where you can move your units up and down across the grids of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Field, so even out of the field spell zone and back down into the field spell zone. So it's kind of like Fire Emblem grid-based, turn-based tactics in that sense, and we literally have two like opposing sides, although they are supposed to be played in the same deck. But you know what I really want to do is to like create half decks with only 20 cards each for each side and see them battle each other, because I think that would be pretty exciting. The next one we have Valiants for the robot side. Valiants Dominator Duke. So I guess this could be a video game, but I guess it also counts as potentially a board game as well. Because I mean, Fire Emblem essentially in its heart is a board game. Here we have a Labyrinth Trap IC and another Rune extra deck monster, ending off with a Rune secret rare, and this is actually their field spell, which is, I mean, honestly, you need this card in order to play the deck. So this is the Fountain of Runes, and as long as it exists in your field zone, you can activate Rune quick play spells during the opponent's turn as well. Yeah, so you literally cannot, you literally don't have to set anything, so the opponent can't just Lightning Storm and get rid of your entire back row like that. And with its second effect, once per turn, whenever you play a Rune quick play spell, you can target up to 3 Rune quick play spells in your grave, put them at the bottom of your deck in any order, and draw the same number of cards. Which is just insane, but it's pretty much, I think, necessary for this deck because you will essentially be going through your spells very, very fast. And they don't necessarily like give you a search every time you activate them. So it's like in order to keep the flow of these spells so that you can survive, well, disrupt the opponent enough to survive while decking them out is a very core aspect of this card and just makes it so important, man. But it means that if your opponent is able to, they are definitely going to shoot down this field spell whenever they can, and it has no protection. Here we have a ninja looking dude for the Oriental Valiants. This is this is definitely another rune. You can see it from the first person perspective. Is that a generator there? Okay, I might be seeing this wrong. Perhaps it's not the giant black first generator boss that I remember. But this rune archetype seems to be related to the generators because there's quite a lot of overlap in what you see in their artwork. And dude, we are seriously getting a lot of rune cards. This is definitely for Valiants. And this is a Labyrinth card. Yes, the silver statue of the Labyrinth. Pretty cool stuff. So probably one of the defending, one of your minions that will help to defend the deck. Generics, you know what? Maybe I'll just put it on top so that they all just share one pile. Next pack. But yeah, I hope that from my explanation so far, I have piqued your interest in these 3 very different and unique archetypes. The Labyrinth one is very trap focused. We will see a lot of normal. Oh, wait. I need to talk about this. Okay, so this is a Valiant spell. And as you can see in this artwork, you literally have the robots and the Oriental warrior dudes being sold as like toys or figures or like those Mii's for the Switch, right? And it seems like, I don't know, I guess perhaps you use these physically to play in a board game because there seems to be a playmat behind as well. Or perhaps these are things that you can like put into your console, whatever console this game is played on, in order to load the characters in. And it's just so cool and really emphasizes how this archetype is so inspired by like these game gimmicks, man. I don't know where I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put this on the Oriental side for now. We got another one of the statues, a rune. Oh, what book was this again? Book of Eclipse. So it flips all of your opponent's face-up monsters to face-down defense, but they flip back up during the end of their turn, and then your opponent gets to draw cards equal to the number of monsters turned face-up. Now this sounds like you're giving your opponent a lot of advantage, but remember that the Rune deck is trying to deck out the opponent. So this goes strangely well with that, especially since during that turn, since all their monsters are face down, the opponent won't be able to mess with you after you activate this card. And our next super rare is going to be a Labyrinth trap, a Labyrinth Barrage. Very interesting. You can activate this trap when you activate another one of your set normal traps that is not Labyrinth Barrage. And when you do this, the effect of this trap becomes the same as that other trap. So fitting of the word barrage, it essentially turns one of your traps into like a double cast. After you activate this card until the end of your opponent's next turn, all effect damage that you would deal to your opponents with your effects becomes 0. Now that is a pretty interesting spell, trap. So as I was gonna say earlier, the Labyrinth deck is very trap focused because you are, after all, a dungeon boss monster trying to kill or perhaps just repel all of the brave adventurers trying to destroy you and steal your treasure. So the effects kind of resolve around, they generally support normal traps and their activation, such as searching for them and benefiting from them when normal traps are activated. So of course the archetype has many normal traps, but this goes well with generic normal traps as well. So I was just thinking that wouldn't it be cool if you create a fusion Labyrinth and Trap Tricks deck, because I can totally see the characters in these 2 archetypes like just lore-wise, right, deciding to cooperate with one another to just trap as many adventurers that they can. Like, the Labyrinth Queen just wants to have fun, and at the same time, I guess the trap tricks are just gonna make some meals out of adventurers. Anyway, here we have this burning water. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that all the Oriental warriors in the Valiants, they're water attribute spellcasters, whereas the robots, I think, are all fire attribute machines. Anyway, this although this guy definitely doesn't look water attribute as well, I think he's like the main leader, okay? But the boss card is like a fusion of the different members into one card, so that's why this guy himself is not a foil. Labyrinth setting, a quick play spell for Labyrinth. One of their chandeliers, and another one of their fair welcome. I think we saw this earlier. And normal parallel of Moonin again. Okay. But still though, the designs of the Valiance monsters, both for the humans and the robots, are like literally top tier. I can't wait to put them into my binder. Here we have another non-quick play spell for Rune, which I think is Deceit of the Mysterune, and it is a continuous spell for the deck. And dude, this thing is so powerful. You can only have one face-up copy of this card on your field, and whenever either player activates a quick play spell, banish the top card of your opponent's deck. So you see, you set up the field spell, you set up this continuous spell. If you get both of these on turn 1, right, then you just go ham from there, man. You start casting over and over again, disrupting the opponent and just burning away all the cards in his deck. But what's let's consider the implications of this being a banish, okay? So, since you're banishing cards off the top of your opponent's deck, well, this means they cannot make use of the graveyard as a resource, which is effective against, of course, many different kinds of decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because since the very beginning, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been a very graveyard resource-based game. But in contrast, this is going to be very dangerous against decks which use the banish zone as a resource. So that is some interesting interaction there. I mean, like, just to bring a very retro example, you just imagine like you're fighting against Macrocosmos, Helios, the primordial sun, and then after you banish lots of cards in his deck, then suddenly just one dude comes out and just smashes you in the face for so much damage. Okay, let's carry on. Position change. Yes, this is definitely for the Valiants, and now we got a normal parallel rare of their leader again. What's his name? Let me at least read it. Hojo. We'll put him there. It's always so much fun opening these deck build packs, man. You know, just learning about these new archetypes. Okay, now we'll give it to the other side since they kind of fits both. Compulse Evac. Well, I guess... Oh, it's a normal trap, so I guess it's definitely a trap I would see in a dungeon, I would expect. So I guess it's for Labyrinth. Oh, and here we have Welcome Labyrinth, their starting trap to play. Discard names first and second effects can only be activated once per turn. First effect, special summon a Labyrinth monster from your deck, and after this card's activation, until the next turn end, you can only special summon fiend-type monsters from the deck or the extra deck. Second effect, while this card is in the grave, if a monster is removed from the field from the effects of one of your normal traps, you may set this card on your field. But you cannot activate this effect the turn this card is sent to the grave. Yeah, so that second effect that I described to you that triggers when a monster is removed, thanks to your normal trap, is a common effect condition that we see for pretty much all the Labyrinth monsters as well. So the point is, the monsters, they kind of help you gain advantage, and then when you blast away an opponent's monster with one of your normal traps, they will all feed in to give you more advantage. So I don't know, I guess I would describe it as more of a control deck than a mid-range deck, but I have not tested it. See, I knew it! Of course they're gonna go together with Trap Trick well, man. That is gonna be so fun. Now I'm super curious to see how that might play out. Like, you got some Labyrinth monsters on the field, and then like you're allied together with the Trap Tricks. I can just imagine like an adventurer is approaching, then he steps into a trap and gets blown away, then like the Trap Tricks minion and the Labyrinth minion and the Trap Tricks girls, they just like, you know, just do like high fives and stuff, and then of course they go and retrieve them so that they can feed the adventurers to the Trap Tricks. Okay, that's getting a bit morbid there. Yep, Oh, we're getting the field spell for Labyrinth as well? Dude! Wow, they really don't want me to play Valiants then. Silver Palace of the Labyrinth. Discard names first and second effects can only be activated once per turn. First effect, when you activate your sets a Welcome Labyrinth trap card, the super rare that we saw over here, which can constantly come back and forth, so you will be playing it many times unless your opponent banishes it. Add the following effect to this card's effect. Choose and destroy one card on the field, and yes, since it is a choose effect, this does not target. Oh, and the point is that, guys, there is something super interesting here. Why did they phrase this effect so weirdly? Like, they could have just said that, you know, just choose and destroy one card on the field, but instead of saying that, they said add that effect to this card. So what this means is that this effect, if it removes an opponent's monster, is counted as being a result of the normal trap and not your field spell. And because of that, this allows you to meet the activation conditions of your whole Labyrinth gang. That is such a cool interaction! And second effect, if you activate a normal trap that is not a Labyrinth card, you may special summon a Fiend type monster, like not a Labyrinth Fiend type monster, you know, any Fiend type monster from your hand or grave. And I just love that because it just emphasizes so hard how this deck is really designed to work together with non-archetype decks, like normal traps that are non-Labyrinth, and even Fiend types that are not Labyrinth as well, can potentially find a place to contribute to this deck's effectiveness. And that is, I think that is just a really nicely designed archetype. Like, regardless of how competitive it eventually becomes, it sounds like it is going to be so cool to build and think of ways to play with, and just awesome fun, man. I mean, this, at the end of the day, this is what card games are all about, right? Well, at least for someone like me who doesn't really care whether I win tournaments or can get to Worlds or not. Okay, so more Rune stuff. I think we have mostly seen... Oh, and we just have ended off with the ultra rare boss of the Labyrinth. But oh no, I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit here, but if you guys can look at the text box a bit, I think there was a bit of a printing error where there's a blemish of blue ink in the text. That is so unfortunate, and especially for a boss monster in my favorite rarity, Ultra Rare. Discard name's second and third effects can only be activated once per turn. First effect, your opponent cannot activate their monster effects in response to your activation of your normal traps. Second effect, you can target one normal trap in your grave, set it to your field. However, the card set by this effect cannot be activated unless you have a Fiend type monster on the field. And the third and final effect, which is the typical trigger effect, when a monster leaves the field by the effect of one of your normal traps, you can choose a card in your opponent's hand or field and destroy it. And of course, if it's from the hand, then this will be random. You don't get to look at your opponent's hand. Okay. Compulse. Nice to get it with a bit of that nice normal parallel rare foiling, I guess, because I mean, I have more than enough compulses in a variety of other rarities already from the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, robots, Rune, Metal Foes, and another super rare. And wow, they really want me to play Labyrinth. This is one of the attendants of the Labyrinth, I think. Labyrinth Servants Ariana. Discard name's first and second effects can only be activated once per turn. First effect, if this card is normal or special summoned, you may search your deck for one Labyrinth card other than Ariana and add it to your hand. And second effect, if a monster leaves the field by the effects of your normal trap card, as usual, draw one card from your deck. And after that, you may activate the following effects. Special summon one Fiend type monster from your hand or set one spell trap card from your hand. Some very nice support for the archetype right over there. I guess I'll put her down right here. Dude, 2 runes and like 5 Labyrinths so far. So I'm pretty sure we won't be getting another foil in this final pack. But you know what? I think I'm kind of happy that we got like the key cards for Rune and Labyrinth instead of Valiants, because to be honest, I don't like the Valiants boss fusion monster, at least for the Eastern Warrior side, because it is literally just 3 characters in one artwork, which is not very cool at all. I don't mind the one for the robots, because that is at least a new character, and he looks pretty damn badass. Okay. Fair welcome Labyrinth, and our final card in this booster box opening of Tactical Masters is going to be a spell, and it's just a scapegoat. Okay, so just to wrap up, here are our pulls, a very Labyrinth focused box with a bit of Rune, but honestly, I'm really satisfied with this. And just to show you guys, because I find this very amusing, these are our Rune cards. It's literally like a pure spell deck, man. Yeah, and then we just got a few fusion monsters back there. As for, I was actually a bit surprised to see that the Valiance deck also is pretty much mainly monsters, but I mean, I guess they are pendulum, they are half spells. And this spell card where you see them being sold off in the store is a common, but I think each side has their own field spell as well, but I think those are probably super rares. The bosses are most likely ultra, and I think some of the characters are also super as well, and for Labyrinth, a lot of minions, monsters, many traps, and a bit of spells. Alright, as usual, if you guys enjoyed this video, do give it a like. Let me know what you guys think about these new cards in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG booster box and product openings on the day of release. And with that, I will see you guys in the next Yu-Gi-Oh! video.